Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're gearing up for your Class 10 exams, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to tackle a really crucial topic in Indian agriculture, the cropping seasons. We are going to break it all down, make it simple, clear, and get you absolutely ready for that exam. So let's dive right in.
Have you ever actually stopped to think about this? I mean, on the surface, it seems like a simple question, right? But the answer? Well, the answer unlocks the entire story of India's climate, its geography, and its amazing farming history. And by the end of this explainer, I promise, you won't just know the answer, you'll be able to explain it like a pro.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll get a feel for the overall agricultural rhythm of the country. Then, we'll dive deep into the three main seasons, Rabi, Kharif, and that little season in between, Zaid. And we'll wrap it all up with a close look at India's most vital crop, rice. Let's get to it.
You know, India's incredible diversity is perfectly mirrored in its farming. It's not just one single farming season here. Nope, India has three distinct ones, Rabi, Kharif, and Zaid. Each one is tied to a specific time of year and a really unique climate pattern. Getting a handle on this rhythm is absolutely key to understanding Indian agriculture.
Okay, first up, we've got the Rabi season. Now, here's a super simple way to remember it. Just think Rabi, winter crop. These are the plants that are sown just as the temperatures start to cool down.
So let's look at the timeline. Rabi crops get planted between October and December, right at the start of winter. They grow all through those cooler months, and then they're harvested in the early summer, usually from April to June. So the key takeaway is they're cool weather crops that actually ripen in the heat.
So, what kind of crops are we talking about? Well, the big one is wheat, the source of our chapatis and bread. But you've also got barley, peas, gram, and mustard. These are really the cornerstones of India's massive winter harvest.
And where do these crops grow best? We're talking mainly about the northern and northwestern states, places like Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh. Their success there really depends on winter rain, which often comes from these weather systems called western temperate cyclones. Basically, these are just winds carrying a ton of moisture all the way from the Mediterranean, and they provide that crucial, life-giving water for our winter crops.
And now for our second major season, Kharif. This is easy. If Rabi is the winter crop, then Kharif is the monsoon crop. Its entire life cycle is ruled by the arrival of those all-important monsoon rains.
You see, the timing for Kharif crops is pretty much dictated by nature. The sowing happens right when the monsoon starts, which, can vary across the country, and the harvest takes place in September and October, just as those rains start to fade away. It's a perfect example of rain-fed agriculture.
The variety of Kharif crops is just incredible. The main one, of course, is paddy, which is rice. We'll get to that in a bit. But you also have maize, jawar, bajra, cotton, jute, and even groundnut. All of these plants absolutely love the warm, wet conditions that the monsoon brings.
Okay, this slide right here, this is your golden ticket for revision. Seriously, you might want to grab a screenshot. On one side, you have Rabi, sown in winter, harvested in summer, key crop is wheat. On the other side, Kharif, sown with the monsoon, harvested in autumn, key crop is rice. If you remember this, you've totally mastered the core concept. But hold on, we're not done. There's actually a third season. It's a pretty short one, and people often call it the in-between season. This is the Zaid season. So where does this Zaid season fit in? Well, it slots perfectly into that gap between the Rabi harvest, which is around April, and the start of the Kharif sowing in June or July. It takes advantage of that brief, hot, dry summer period to grow some very specific, fast-growing crops. And what exactly grows during this quick season? Just think of all your favorite summer treats. We're talking watermelon, muskmelon, cucumber. These are classic Zaid's crops. This season is also really important for growing certain types of vegetables and fodder for animals.
So, let's recap. We've got the winter Rabi, the monsoon Kharif, and the summer Zaid seasons. Now, to really see how these cycles work in the real world, let's zoom in and do a little case study on India's single most important food crop, rice.
Now, the most crucial thing to understand here is that rice, which you'll also see called paddy, is the staple food for most of the people in India. And just like we've learned, it is the classic, the quintessential Kharif crop. That means its entire existence is deeply connected to the monsoon.
And just to give you an idea of how important it is, get this. India is the second largest producer of rice in the entire world, right behind China.
That is a staggering amount of food, and it just goes to show how vital this one crop is for the country's food security.
So what does rice need to flourish? Well, it's pretty simple. It needs heat, it needs water, and it needs humidity. Lots of it. To be specific, it needs high temperatures, we're talking above 25 degrees Celsius, high humidity, and most importantly, a ton of rainfall, over 100 centimeters a year. You can see why it's the perfect monsoon crop.
And those specific needs tell us exactly where you'll find rice being grown. The major rice-growing belts are the fertile plains of northern and northeastern India, all along the coastal areas, and in the river delta regions, basically anywhere that gets hammered with plenty of monsoon rain.
And here's a really fascinating little fact for you. In some of the eastern states like Assam, West Bengal, and Odisha, the conditions are so perfect that farmers can actually grow 3 separate rice crops in a single year. They have local names for them: As, Ammon, and Boro. It just shows the incredible intensity of rice farming in those regions. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. So, as we start to wrap things up, what are the absolute must-know takeaways that you need to lock in for your exam?
Here it is, all laid out on one simple slide. Rabi is the winter crop, and your go-to example is wheat. Kharif is the monsoon crop, perfectly represented by rice. And Zaid is that short summer season, and you can think of watermelon. Seriously, memorize this table, and you'll have the basics of India's cropping seasons down perfectly.
When you really think about it, India's cropping pattern isn't just about farming. It's this beautiful, ancient rhythm that perfectly blends together the seasons, the climate, and the culture. From the winter wheat up north to the monsoon rice along the coast, it's a system that is perfectly in sync with the subcontinent.
And that leaves us with one last, really important thought. This agricultural rhythm has worked for centuries, but it all depends on a predictable climate. So the big question for the future is this: how will this ancient rhythm cope as our climate continues to change? That's definitely something to think about. We really hope this explainer helped you feel more prepared for your exams. For more great content just like this, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the A1 Institute YouTube channel. And hey, if you need help with admission, notes, or any guidance, please get in touch with A1 Institute. You can find our phone number right there in the description. Thanks so much for joining me.